Welcome to Triumphant Spirit, America's World War II Generation Speaks. This program is a series of broadcasts featuring the stories of a generation that fought and won the Second World War. No matter how they fought the war or where, on the home front or the battlefield, each veteran featured on the program contributed valiantly to a victory that changed the 20th century. Here are their stories in their own words. They are stories of actions and deeds that not only helped shape the outcome of the war, but the very world we live in today. On December 7, 1941, the Japanese attacked the United States Pacific Fleet at Pearl Harbor, a Navy base located next to Honolulu on the Hawaiian island of Oahu. More than 350 planes, launched from 6 Japanese carriers, conducted the surprise raid. The attack sank or seriously damaged 18 ships and damaged or destroyed 347 planes. 2,335 soldiers and sailors lost their lives, as well as 68 civilians, during the 2-hour raid. The attack propelled America into World War II. Based at Pearl Harbor at the time of the attack was the USS San Fransisco, a heavy cruiser assigned to the Pacific Fleet. The cruiser was berthed in the southeast lock of the Navy base opposite Battleship Row, where 7 fleet battleships were docked. Aboard the San Francisco was John Krueger, who was a gunner's mate. He was aboard the ship trying to get breakfast when the Japanese attacked. It was a moment in history he will never forget.
I joined the Navy in August of 1940. The war was just getting quite intense in Europe. My father and I discussed what the situation was, and I says to him, maybe I should go get into service. He thought it was a good idea. He says his logic was that get in early, get some experience, get some seniority type of thing, which did work in my favor, because I did get promotions and move up in the service. So that all worked out well for me.
When Pearl Harbor happened, you were aboard the cruiser, the USS San Francisco. Can you recall what you and your shipmates were doing aboard the ship before the attack?
Well, some of them were getting ready for church. Some of them were still sleeping. It was a Sunday morning. It's kind of our relaxed day. Myself, I was on the deck waiting in line for my breakfast. And all of a sudden in the distance, I see these planes diving. And my first impression was that the Army was on maneuvers, because it seemed to be a little bit in the distance at Hickam Field area. And I could hear the explosions. I said myself that, well, my God, training on Sundays, this is ridiculous. But that was my first impression.
John, where was the USS San Francisco located within Pearl Harbor?
We were tied up alongside of a dock. We were, the battleships which took the brunt of this attack were all behind us. In other words, right to our rear, not too far, several hundred yards away.
What did you hear? What did you see? And most importantly, John, what did you think?
Well, my first impression of seeing in the distance, thinking it was Hickam Field maneuvers, and then all of a sudden this planes, to the rear going for the battleships. So we turned around and saw that, and we knew that we're in up the air. So I went down to the Army. There was about 6 of us. We took what we had and brought them up and tried to attach them. Of course, they were mobile. Try to attach them to the part of the ship. We call them lash it. We were tying it, trying to get some shots at these planes. But we got some shots off, but I don't think I got any hits. I didn't feel that I hit anything.
John, did you recognize that it was the Japanese that were attacking the U.S. fleet at that time?
Oh, finally we could see the big red ball on the side of the plane. Yes, oh yes, and for many months the talk was that The war with Japan was not too far off. So who else would it have been?
Did you observe any of the ships being hit? And can you tell us about what happened to them?
Well, you can see the explosions. You can't see. You could not see the torpedo wakes or anything like that. No, you could see the ships, and of course the one ship, I think it was the battleship Oklahoma, started to turn on its side. It was things like that. And of course, I got busy doing my own thing with my gun. Therefore, I was not observing as much other things as trying to get a shot at somebody.
You describe what you did during the early minutes of knowing that attack was taking place. What did it take to summon the courage to do what you did and fight back?
It's just a normal reaction, I think. I don't know. But, gee, we're being attacked. We got to do something. Our guns were alongside of a port, and you probably put limited use of the 5-inch guns. And although men from our ship, as I recall, because our ammunition was taken off when you're going for yard repairs, they went to the neighboring ship, the USS New Orleans, as I recall, and were going there to help man their guns and helping them to fire at the planes.
Was your ship prepared to fight back? Was it on any alert status due to a suspected attack?
No, I don't think anyone in the whole base was on alert, no.
The Japanese conducted 2 raids on the Pacific Fleet. Can you recall what you saw of the Japanese planes and how successful they were in your mind in accomplishing their mission?
Oh, they did very well. They had, Pearl Harbor itself is only 40 feet deep. It's a very shallow mooring area. And they, for many months, modified their torpedoes so that when planes would drop them, they would not go deep and go into the mud, and they put some kind of things on the tail of the torpedoes so that they prevent that from going deep, so they could hit the ships.
After the attack, what were your actions on board your ship?
Well, we continued that for this one on. There was 2, like you mentioned, 2 waves. There was a 45-minute wave the first time. It was about a 15-minute lull. We thought it was all over. All of a sudden, there's a second attack, and another 45 minutes. So you were pretty much, and of course, when it was all over, thinking, is there going to be a third or a fourth? And if there was a third and fourth, we wouldn't have had any Navy if they come back, because there were many ships that they did not get to, thank God.
The evening of the attack, what did you and your buddies talk about?
Well, like I said, when I finally got something to eat, I didn't have any breakfast, I didn't have any lunch. Finally, I think we got a sandwich and some coffee around evening time, and I had to get ready to go on that watch up 8 o'clock up at the main gate. We would send so many sailors would be there. The Marines were in charge of the gate, and that was chaos that night. People trying to get in, trying to come back to their ships. I recall a captain's wife coming to the gate, inquiring about how her husband was, and the Marines were pretty strict. No, they told her, "I don't care who your husband is, Admiral, you are not getting in this base. Nobody's getting in this base. This gate is closed." And men were trying to come back from their ships, from a recreation center we had just outside the gate, and the Marines were even shooting at them. It was horrible. Everybody was on edge. Everybody was nervous. Anything that moved, look out.
After Pearl, you remained on the USS San Fransisco. Where did you go, and what happened?
Well, the first thing when we got ourselves together, the admiral in charge, Admiral Kimmel, sent us down to try to reinforce Wake Island. The Marines were there as a detachment. We were trying to bring some troops in. We were trying to bring a few planes. And we got up within about, I understand, about 100 miles from wake, and we have scout planes that are sent out ahead of time. And what they saw at Wake Island, the amount of the enemy ships there, that if we continued on, we would have been annihilated. We were already in bad shape. Here with this small group, maybe we had about 10 ships, I guess, a carrier, some cruisers, some destroyers, that we would have got probably seriously damaged ourselves. So the admiral in charge decided that we go back to Pearl Harbor, and that was called off. That was the first thing we did.
Wake Island was lost to the Japanese.
Yes, it was.
You were at Pearl Harbor when that took place. What happened after you left Pearl Harbor for a second time?
Second time, well then, we started to go. We went down to the South Pacific area there. Our main purpose was, our group was to try to keep the sea lanes open at this early stage. It was more, we were in a very defensive mode at this time because of our losses. And we were not being very aggressive. And we're just, matter of fact, we would be, at one time we would be at this area, and if a Japanese plane would spot us, all night we would run with this group to another area, and hoping that we would be spotted over there. And when these reports were going back to the main headquarters, I think we had more ships there than we actually had. That type of thing. The Japanese landed on New Guinea at that time, was the initial landing, and as they landed, we about the second or third day of the landing, we hit them with our dive bombers from our planes, and we did very serious damage there. And that was a shock to them that we could do that. And it was a little pumped us up a little bit. That one of our first actions on our way back.
During the war, the Battle of Guadalcanal was one of the turning points. It's recognized as one of the turning points by historians. Did the San Francisco participate in the naval campaign that took place around Guadalcanal?
Yes, they did. We were there for the landings. We were there for, it was a total of about 7 night naval engagements between the Japanese forces. Generally, it's occurring around midnight of all time. Never in the daytime. Maybe one was in the daytime. Mostly at night. And you couldn't hardly see each other. And it was all told about 7 of them. The San Francisco was in 2 of them. We were in the Battle of the Cape Esperance. We did fairly well that night. We didn't get any damage to our ship. We did lose others in our force, and it was kind of that battle where we did as much damage to them as they did to us. It was kind of like a stalemate type thing. And the second naval engagement happened about a month later. It was almost to the day. It was called the Battle of Guadalcanal. It was been written about as being the most ferocious naval battle in the history of the U.S. Navy. They come down with battleships and to attack the Marines, our landings on Guadalcanal, and we try to intercept them. Now, we only had cruisers and some destroyers. They had several battleships, several cruisers, lots of destroyers. They outnumbered us nearly 2-to-1. And they came in three-pronged approach to the island. And our admiral, his name was Admiral Callahan, set course, and we went right up between the 2 of them. They were fighting with both sides, getting whacked from both sides. Our ship took a terrible beating, and I lost many shipmates on that day.
John, this may be difficult for you to recall, but can you take us through a day's action during this battle? Well,
I was inside of it. I could not see it personally because I was inside of a turret, a gun. You're enclosed, and you could not see it. But I remember as when you're loading platform, your gun would be your 3 guns. We had 3 in the turret. would be, and the platform, loading platform would be kind of like in this angle. And once you loaded, if it was any distance, you would get elevation on your platform and your guns. When we loaded, and the platform went up like this, in other words, we were shooting at ships 1,500 yards away from us. And a few times they were almost running into each other. That's how close it was. That's where, coming back to that most ferocious thing I talked about. And the battle actually lasted a total of 3 days. We were in just the first night of it.
What happened after the Battle of Guadalcanal?
Well, we limped back to Espiritu Santo, was an island. It's a safe island. Very serious damage, a lot of dead, a lot of wounded. And we're limping back, we're on our way back to the island. It was maybe, I think, about half of us were limping back. And the chief hollered down to me, come on up and take a break. They got some coffee and beans or something up on the well deck. And I came up and I got this plate of beans and this cup of coffee. And I walked over to the side of the ship looking for some place to sit down and relax and have the coffee and beans. And all of a sudden somebody hollered, torpedo to this, torpedo to that. Wow. The torpedoes came from a sub, Japanese sub. When one went in front of our ship, one went in back of our ship, continued on over and hit this Juno. Sir, my heart, it was like an ammunition dump going up, because that's the type of ship it was. It had more firepower, very light. It was what we call a light cruiser. A lot of firepower, a lot of ammunition, and these torpedoes must have been right into the ammunition spaces, because there was a tremendous explosion. And as I looked at it, the beans and the coffee, I don't know where they went. I know I didn't eat them. I didn't drink it. I was, oh boy, it was terrible.
And on board the Juno were who?
There was five brothers called the Sullivans. I don't know where they came from. I think out in Iowa or something like that. And all of them were killed that night. As I saw it, and as the smoke rose up from the explosion, and there was nothing there, nothing. Anybody told me that somebody survived that, I couldn't believe it. But actually, people were, for the concussion, were like blown off into the water and stuff, and there were survivors that were in that water for a long, long time before they were found out about. That was a sad thing.
However, all 5 Southern brothers did go down with the ship.
All died. The Navy thereafter would not let brothers be on the same ship. There was a policy from that day that matter of fact, we had a brother on a ship, he was taken off.
After the San Francisco returned to port, you returned to the States for training. Can you tell us about that?
As new construction was being built, new ships, they needed some old hands, experienced people to be the nucleus of these new ships. So about 10 of us were taken off our ship. We went over to Alaska, caught a plane into Seattle, got a Pullman train cross country to Washington, D.C. I went to gunnery school for about 8 weeks, getting some new technology, getting trained about a new gun. I was on an 8-inch gun on the San Francisco. Now I was being trained for 5-inch guns, and I wound up putting a new destroyer in commission in Charleston, South Carolina, the USS Bryant, DD-665. And I spent the next, 2.5, 3 years on her.
On the Bryant, what was your first mission in the Pacific?
Our first, we went up to Boston and picked up a brand new carrier. I think it was the WASP, W-A-S-P, and we escorted it down through the canal and over into the Pacific, and we all went down into Pearl Harbor.
All right, once based in Pearl Harbor, now leaving Pearl Harbor for a third time.
Yes.
What was your mission?
Well, this was, we would go with different groups this time, and bigger groups. We went out down to, I think the first island we went to take back was the island of Saipan. We took that back with the Marines, landed there. Then we went up to an island called Tinian, island called Palu. After that was what, Palu. Went on to the Philippines, took back the MacArthur says, I shall return. We all returned. And we landed at, the first island we landed on was Leyte. And there was, we were engaged in night naval engagement once again with the Japanese fleet. We were in the destroyers in what they called the Battle of Surigao Straits. The Japanese forces were coming in to disrupt our landings on Leyte, tried to do some damage and get us to withdraw.
John, you're about to describe one of the greatest naval battles that took place during World War II. Can you describe it in detail for our audience?
Well, the Japanese come down with three-pronged attack on the Philippines. They wanted to disrupt this landing and stop us. One group came from Japan North, right directly to the island. One came from the Philippines, another group, and our group came from I believe it was Malaya, and they came around on it was a three-pronged attack, and our group attacked at one of the three. Now the other two were taken care of by other forces.
Was this a daytime attack or a nighttime attack?
This, once again, that was at night. It was around 3 o'clock in the morning, matter of fact, as I recall. And the funny part, one of the funny things about this, all those ships that had been damaged in Pearl Harbor, the group that we were with that night were all these rehabilitated battleships. And they were all lined up in a single file. And as the Japs come in from this way, they were all lined up here, and they really lit into them. They were getting even out there, let me tell you. It was, at that time, I was a chief gunner's mate. Now I'm at the top gunner of the ship, in charge of all the guns.
After Iwo Jima, the next battle campaign was the campaign for the island of Okinawa.
That is correct.
Did the Bryant participate in that campaign?
Yes, we did. The Japanese had become very active over the year. At Philippines, it started with the kamikaze planes, the suicide planes, with big 500,000-pound bombs strapped underneath the plane. Their only mission was to get up in the air and to crash dive on a ship. And a lot of times, that one plane could put a ship out of commission. And our ship, as a matter of fact, we were on picket duty, and we 6 planes attacked. We're all alone, out there, sitting out there alone in this picket duty. We haven't got the help of everybody else. 6 planes attacked us, and we got, I think we got 3 of them. One tried to crash dive on us and missed us, and one crashed right into our bridge and killed about 38 men. Another 38, some were wounded.
Once the Battle of Okinawa was over, what happened with the USS Bryant?
Well, we were so badly damaged that we had to be sent back for repairs. Now, we had been out there now for 14 months, and they decided that we needed a break, and we were sent, thank gosh, we were sent back to Mare Island over in California for our repairs. And therefore, you got a little break in the war now, get away from the tension. 14 months out there is a long time, sir.
Do you have anything to say on behalf of all those who sacrificed their lives? Do you have anything to say on their behalf to today's generation?
You consider that we went through the Depression. Most of us, most of them boys were all Depression boys. We went aboard, we fought this war. We come back, we were given opportunities through the GI Bill of Rights to get some education. But Of course, jobs were better, more opportunities for jobs. So this generation, I think we just can't let our guard down. That's it. I know it costs money, lots of money, but we're now the most powerful nation in the world. We've got to act like it, not try to bully anybody, but don't let anybody take advantage of us. And the Pearl Harbor survivors, we have a slogan: remember Pearl Harbor, keep America alert.